Hi there, my name is Michelle. I'm from Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada. I'm 50 years old and I have been on quite a journey for the last 10 years, starting with an old whiplash that I didn't know I had that stemmed into severe chronic pain over the following couple years after that. Even though the physical injury ended up getting taken care of, uh, according to therapists, I was no longer following the natural type of chronic pain, or pain that should be associated with the type of injury that I had because they had pretty much fixed it for the most part. So, my journey through chronic pain ended up being over 10 years of length, and I'm still working through it. But what I found out about 7 years in, which was about 3 years ago, is that physical therapy, everything was making it worse. So, in the end, what was a minor, I mean, it wasn't minor, but it was a big flare up with my whiplash. What started off as something that should have been easily fixed with some therapy over a months of time turned into something that was not normal. So I had chronic wrist tendonitis, elbow tendonitis, shoulder. It went to all of these areas. So it was in all of those joints, my neck, my upper back, my mid back, and my lower back. And then it started running down my legs. Just tapping my phone with my finger would create pain in my finger, which would run up my hand, up my arm, and start the whole syndrome right up there to my neck, go down my mid back. And it was to the point that I had to use two hands to give someone a cup of coffee sometimes. I needed help getting dressed or washing my hair at times. The pain was incredible, and it would be more stimulated when I would do some things that wouldn't even make sense, like going on the computer. Because when I had the tendonitis in my wrist, I went on physical therapy. After the physical therapy, I would go right on the computer for about 4 hours instead of resting my wrist. And my brain adopted that as a threat. So then when I would go on the computer thereafter, even to this day, if I'm on the computer too much, it will trigger my whole nervous system. So, and chronic pain. And so it's been quite the journey. So 3 years ago, I was seen by a professional, and she told me what was going on. She was a brain physiotherapist who specialized with chronic pain. And I was so wired at that time, trying to figure out where all the pain was coming from. I was journaling everything and whatever. She said, "You are so wired right now." She said, "I can't help you because I'd have to see you once a week for like 3 months, and your insurance is out, and you're stressed about the financial as well." And she said, "You're gonna have to go through the pain clinic, get on some medication, and then come back and reassess when things are calmed down." Because I was trying to find pain, reasons for the pain, and I was caught up in that loop. I was very anxious. And but what she told me is that it was stemmed from an oversensitized brain and nervous system. And in order to get that to calm down, I had to change my daily habits, my daily routines. Come to find out in the end that the brain can't tell the difference between chronic pain and emotional pain. It's all the same to the brain. It doesn't know the difference. So when I had that flare up with the whiplash, no huge thing. It's just that I overworked over the years, didn't realize I ever had a whiplash, and then one day it came up and bit me in the ass, and I was like this, and I couldn't straighten up. And I just had to go see a chiro and different things. But he said, "You'll know when you need to see me again." Well, by the time I knew I needed to see him again, it had turned into chronic pain, and that was where the life kind of changed. So, anyways, she told me that because all my life I had stored so much emotional pain inside, because I'm a highly sensitive and very detailed type of personality. She said because I've done that all my life, to my brain, the threat system was already high. It was pain. It was something to be alerted for. And when the injury happened or resurfaced, all of that to the brain was like, "Oh my God, serious issue here, protect." So when you touch a hot stove and you burn your hand and you remove your finger, or your hand, your brain is sending that message to your body to remove your hand. The pain is not coming from the hand, it's actually coming from the brain. And so it turns on that pain for you to remove your hand so it can bring you to a place of safety. So in my case, it thought I was in constant threat. And so it turned on the pain and it did not want to shut off. And so moving on, luckily, after I had seen over 12 different therapists, she was the last one at the end that told me that I can't help you. Physical therapy is making you worse at this point. Your body is taking even that as a threat. So I needed the physical therapy to release everything, because the brain would tensify all the muscles, the nerves, create chronic pain. It was physical. Even though it was still stemming from the brain, it would affect me physically. So I needed the physical therapy, but yet at the same time, the physical therapy itself started to become a threat to my system. So I was like, screwed. And so anyways, finally I found a chronic pain specialist and I told him my story, and he was doing a few different case studies at that time. And he said, you're lucky. He said, an opportunity just opened today for a case study and you would be perfect. And he took me on as a case study for 6 months. Excuse me. The first 3 months he had to work on me double the time he normally does with a client, and he had to see me twice a week. And he started working through my eyes to get to my brain, the sound, funny as that sounds, to start to wire things down. After 3 months, then I was just seeing him once a week at that point for about the normal time frame. And at the end of the 6 months, or during that, he literally gave me my life back. And I thought, there is no way in hell I could ever go back to that again. And knowing what I knew it was psychogenic at that point, that's where all my pain was stemming. And he told me at the end of my case study, he said, I'm no longer doing case studies after this. I'm expanding my business and I'm not going to be able to afford case studies. So he had got me up to 85% taken care of physically. And he said, the rest of what's going on with you is psychogenic. And because, again, I wasn't, the stuff, he had fixed me up physically. And he's like, okay, there's nothing really left in there for your brain to over amplify. He said, I fixed a lot of the scar tissue and like a lot of the stuff that's been going on. He said, so that the brain can calm things down. But he said, the rest is psychogenic. Anyways, he let me go. And from there, as soon as all the pain started to want to start come back, not in the same extreme, of course, but I was able to self-manage. But this time I knew what was going on in my body. I knew it was psychogenic, and I knew that I had the power to self-heal myself. But it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Fast forwarding 3 years later, I am still working through it, but it's manageable. And I know that if I didn't learn the techniques, he didn't teach me the techniques. Actually, the physiotherapist was the one that gave me the information. She gave me a book. She got me on YouTube finding out about how chronic pain works in the brain. She referred to me to a neuroscientist / physiotherapist online. I believe his name was, gee whiz, I can't remember it. But if you're interested, ask me in the thing, and I will post it later in the comments. Geez, it's at the tip of my tongue. Anyways, so that propelled me on my research. So I studied. I got the book Back in Control by Dr. David Hanscom, a spinal surgeon, and he addressed how it works in the brain and the techniques and different things that you can do. It was so easily written and easy to read. It was about this thick of a book. It was a really easy to read, good, fully jam-packed book. And it really, really helped me in so many ways. Anyways, fast forwarding back to where I was, a month after my case study ended, my 16-year-old was suddenly killed in a motorcycle accident. And so I knew that if I allowed that, like if I lost traction to where I was, in my self-work, I knew that I would be an invalid because I knew how far the chronic pain would go, and I was already there. It felt like my life was over before I was the case study. I felt like I was a 90-year-old woman in a 40-something-year-old body at that time, you know? And so I was determined to continue my processes. So I learned to grieve through listening to motivational videos and going on my walks, daily walks. I was walking a lot. I would listen to that whole year up leading even up to that, or the last 6-7 months leading up to that. What I was doing is I was programming, I was going for walks, I was getting the fresh air, exercise, sunlight, all of those good things in the body. And programming my mind and my emotions at the same time. So I'd listen to podcasts on how the brain and the nervous system works. I would listen to inspirational, motivational videos that had music in the background, but at the same time talking to you. So the music would soothe my nervous system and the words would help rewire my brain and my thinking. And I did this constantly, and I'm still doing this today. It's a constant work. And so that was my my way of coping through to calm down my nervous system. And I determined at that point, I wasn't sure if my son's consciousness lived on or not. I was on the borderline because I had been disheartened from religion. I was still deeply spiritual. But I learned that we can heal our nervous system with or without believing in all those deeper things. Now, currently, yes, I am a very deeply, my son, after a 1-year anniversary, he came through with different synchronicities and showed me that he was very much there. My life, I jumped right on the bandwagon. I'm like, boom, let's go. I'm going to get re-dug right back into all this different spiritual stuff, because I always was. But now it wasn't like, okay, it could be, I know something's there, but I don't know what it is. Now it was like my whole, that was just beautiful. But that's not the point. The point is that first year, all I had was my medical research and my own spirituality and my inspiration. And so as I continued to press through, I would listen to stuff and I would look for things on my walk that would inspire me about my son. It could be a bright red leaf in the middle of all the green ones because fall, it was starting to be fall. And it would remind me of the vibrant personality of my son. And I would just look at it, or the leaves would start to like that. And the ones that would go really, really, really wild, the most wild leaf at all, I would talk to my son and say, I see you. Because he had such a vibrant energy, you know? And so I'd find things like that. And then I would see these little synchronicities on the ground and stuff that I don't see as much today now that I know he's there. But there was just these beautiful synchronicities either here, the universe would bring to me to show me that he was there. And I would just stay open. I would say, you know what? I'm going to take it as a sign from you, but I don't know if you're there. I know the energy doesn't die, but I don't know if it's a drop in the ocean and you're dispelled and like the sense of you is gone, or are you really conscious? I just didn't know. And so one of the things that I learned through this whole journey, because I was a very, very passionate religious person up until 2011. I won't get into all of that, but very, very passionate. So when I deconverted in 2011, right up until, 2023, I still stayed deeply spiritual, but I refused to grab onto anything. And I know this is kind of getting into something a little bit deeper with my testimony, but the point was that on my journey, I seen the power of a deep spirituality and a religious belief, because that really saved me so much. And a lot of where I am today is because I grew up in the church and I had beautiful experiences within the church as well. And then I deconverted and I went on to a more agnostic spirituality. Not sure, but knew there was something more, but wouldn't hold on to anything without absolute truth. And then I went through the chronic pain, and then I went through loss. And during these times is what I found was that you don't have to, like, being deeply spiritual is wonderful, okay? But you can also find ways to self-heal without it. And then with it, it's even without the religious aspect and the indoctrination that comes with religion, like I've got the one way, this is the truth, and if you don't follow, then you are going to go to hell, all of that type of mindset. Without that, my upbringing, so much to be thankful for. And then, oops, just a second here, sorry about that. But without all that religious stuff, okay, without the guilt and the fear, there was so much good that I had been given throughout my bringing up in the church. So much to be thankful for. And Jesus was my all in all. And he really gave me a self-identity and love that I needed. That's what was my go-to. And the idea of God, a little bit more not so lovely feeling. Because I had mixed feelings on that one. He wants to judge me and burn me if I don't. He won't just forgive me if I don't believe a certain way, So there was mixed feelings on that one. But Jesus never, So my love for Jesus was very different from the view that I had taken about God. Even though I seen him as a father at different times, there was still that, So I had that. And then I had the spirituality just by being an agnostic, spiritual agnostic, very bordering on pantheism. I kind of like that view too, but I never really went by a title because I love the idea of the spirituality within the universe and stuff, and or the universe being God, But again, it was just a view. I didn't want to set anything down because I didn't know, and I was so tired of, because the whole reason I changed my view to begin with from I wasn't going to say my religion, from the religion that I came from, was only because I went to prove it right to someone and started doing really big research. It started with hell, and I was trying to prove that hell was real. And the more research that I did, I found out it wasn't. And then it started from there. And then the same person challenged me with a book. They said, if you think you have the truth, read this. And I read it just to prove them wrong again, and the evidence and the research that was in there, like it just, the book that I thought was the absolute word of God, I came to find out, what? This book is got man's fingerprints all over it too, but there's beautiful, inspirational, wonderful parts in it to live your life by as well. But it's not the absolute perfect word of God. It's got man's fingerprints all through it too. So I went through all of that and then I went to this pure agnostic part, and then I went through, all of the stuff, and realized that even as an agnostic, I could have a deep spirituality. And so I would listen to inspirational songs, and I could go into that realm of deep connection with was, to me, what I believe to be spirit now. But, whatever ways people want to look at it really, really doesn't matter a whole lot. I was able to connect, and the way I had learned in the church was how to release yourself and to open yourself up to spirit, to God, which I now call the source of life, because it comes with less baggage that way and less religious thought. And I would have the same, what I would call Holy Spirit experiences with inspirational music that would touch my deepest part of my soul in that moment. What I would call Holy Spirit goosebumps, And I'm like, holy cow, this is so cool. It is not about what you believe. It is to a degree, you know what I mean? If you believe that everything is horrible and whatever, you're not going to, I'm not talking about that. But it's not about having the right spiritual belief that God connects. It's about opening up your heart and connecting to love and to, just peace and beauty, because God is that, right? So anyways, I learned that experience, that you don't have to have the right beliefs, and you don't even have to have a faith that there is something more. You can tap into that deep spirituality with or without. Now, to me now, it's more beautiful with, because mixed with faith, it's even more beautiful. But it's not necessary. In order for this, and even with on my journey towards physical healing, learning how to rewire my nervous system. It came with education, understanding the science, understanding the body, and understanding the power of our inner being, that we have the power to heal ourselves. And I'm not going to get into I'm not going to talk about, I'm not talking about all the deeper stuff, like if someone has pancreatic cancer and is got days to live, and I'm not going there. That's not what I'm talking about. Although, there are certain things that if you can figure out that switch in the body to get it to stop turning on the cancer cells, yes. But usually that's a very, very rare occurrence that someone can figure out how to teach their body to do that. So that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in general, a lot of the things that are going on in our bodies, we don't realize we have the power to self-heal. It could be emotional, physical, digestive issues, chronic pain, anxiety, PTSD, so many other physical aspects that I can't think of off the top of my brain. But fibromyalgia is a big one. So many times I had different specialists think that perhaps I had fibromyalgia because that is a similar type of things that I was going through. But all of that to say, I've gone through the deeply passionate religious upbringing. I went through the space of not knowing for sure, but deeply spiritual. I went through seeing how spiritual things help you, and I also see how we can help ourselves in the physical side, to the point of now being reconnected with a lot of what I was taught growing up, but realizing it's so much deeper than you could ever imagine, and it's not the way we thought, anyways, not going to get into all that. But what I'm learning now is that the power is within us to self-heal. And even though I'm still going through my journey currently, I'm still dealing with chronic pain. I'm dealing with stuff coming up in my nervous system at times, trauma that sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? After my son passed away, I started having some psychogenic seizures. I did have the odd one in my late teenage years growing up, but I didn't know what they were. And the church at that time demonized it and said that it was an evil spirit, not realizing what a psychogenic seizure was. It's not epilepsy. It's not that type of a seizure. It's psychogenic seizure, which has to do with the brain having a problem with processing stress. And it comes out in the body. It looks similar to an epileptic seizure, but it's not. So there was different things that brought that back up. And because I had gone through so much chronic pain and so much deep emotional stuff, my system had just had an overload. And so that's when they started. Not all the time, just it could be like one every number of months. But there was a period last spring, that I had a few different ones within that spirit of April to, I think it was September or August. I had maybe at least 5. And some of them were very, very, very intense. And so most of my I won't get into all that detail. I'm detailed. So all of that, and I'm still saying, you know what? I can self-heal. It may feel impossible, but I know that it's possible. Feelings have nothing to do with it. Thoughts have nothing to do with it. And I have to remind myself in those times that it's okay. That it's okay. I'm going to get through this. And as I learn to rewire my thinking and change my focus and raise my vibration, I notice that my nervous system starts to let go of some of the over intensifying feelings. Now, sometimes when the trauma comes up really strong, it's hard to bring it down. Now, the tricky thing about my type of trauma, it can be triggered by a deeply emotional rooted issue in my life. It has to be something that's really deeply rooted, though, or what most people cannot fathom And it sounds crazy to a lot of people, just like a war veteran with no arm says they have pain in an arm that they don't have. Again, the brain is what is sending the pain, not the arm. That's why they have it, because the brain thinks it still has it and it's still injured, right? That's the same type of thing. But for me, when I used to go on the computer when I was getting physical therapy where I could barely use my hands, that's where I was saying that I had to bring a cup of coffee to someone with two sets of hands. A lot of times, not always, just when it was like really bad. And that started because of going on the computer after I had physical therapy on my wrists. And I went on the computer for a very long period of time when I should have been resting it after that therapy. So my brain began to associate clicking a mouse, danger, danger, more danger. And then I reverted to my phone, tapping my phone when I couldn't do the computer anymore. And I did the same thing after therapy, because I was documenting everything. That was part of my problem, was documenting all my symptoms all the time. I was always documenting, and that was just resetting in the neural pathways in my brain for pain. And because I was always thinking about what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, right? So anyways, all that to say is that that pain was something that the brain has to this day still thinks as a very huge threat. So I have to be careful how long I go on a computer. Like if I have computer projects, I gotta work on documents, or I gotta do all this stuff with pictures or, different things. If I go on for too long, so say I put in 5 hours today and maybe 5 hours tomorrow, or you know what I mean? Like long extended times, especially on the computer with a mouse, because it requires more of this versus just a tapping like this. My nervous system, it comes up in chronic pain first. So I immediately get the chronic pain, and it's not just in the hand that I use. It jumps to the other one. That's the weird thing. That's the weird thing with the brain. It will literally affect both hands. And I'm like, but I didn't do anything with the other hand. It's worse than the one that I use, but it affects both. And it goes up my arms, into my neck, down my back, and I'm aching like you wouldn't believe. But on top of that, it turns on my nervous system and the trauma in my system so much that my emotions are way out of whack, anxiety, and then if I am not careful, and say I were to do it for like a week, for a few hours a week, or even less than that, it depends on how long I go on, it can turn on the trauma response so much that I can have a psychogenic seizure. I can feel them coming. And when they're coming, it's really, really hard for me to get it calmed down, because everything in the body just wants to express it and feel it. And it wants to start. But if I can have someone at that point to talk through, when that trauma comes up, sometimes I feel like screaming and crying. One of the ways that it comes up, another thing is, it's hard for me to share all of this because some people will not understand it. And some people may look at me differently as a result, like in my friend group. No, I'm not my friend group, but I mean just online in general, people that know me, because I'm probably I'm gonna share this on my social media too. So but I just lost my train of thought. A lot of time when a certain type of psychogenic seizure comes up, what will happen is if it's the one that gets into the deep rooted emotion, it will come up and I will start smashing myself in the face uncontrollably for about a minute. And then I end up on the floor and have a seizure. And so it's really crazy. Most of the time I will see it. I'll see the trigger, and it's like, then, it's that work at getting it to calm down before it turns into that. It depends. Well, I'm not going to get into all the details with that. But other times it takes a whole lot of work and I might be able to get it down. But when it comes up, all the body wants to do is express. And it wants to come up. It's very, very intense. And sometimes when it's been poked, there was one time a physical therapist went after it. And all this person said is, I'm going to try to get rid of the trauma pain that's in your mid-back. And he's like, I got to find the organ that goes with that meridian. And he was like checking the liver. Nope, it's not that. The gallbladder. Nope, it's not that. Oh, it's the stomach. And he found it. He just did this little a little trick thing on my body. Nothing major at all. And after that, my foot started going like this. And he said, see, the body's starting to process the trauma. Well, he didn't realize exactly what that meant. And all I meant to say was, oh, really? And I started to cry. Sorry, I didn't start to cry. I started to cry as I said that. Oh, really? And the next thing you know, before I had any explanation, I was smashing myself a mile a minute in the face. I ended up with a black eye. And just constant. And it was pretty a shock. But he knew what it was, and he just looked at it and he was like, he knew what was going on. But it doesn't happen that much to that extent, right? And mine are usually pretty quick. They last very short periods of time. I've gotten my nervous system down quite well, and realizing since all of this big long time of them coming up, there was different things. I was overwired during the summer. I had too much going on. We were renovating. My nervous system was really, really, really high. And so I couldn't, I didn't have the time to regulate as well as I normally did. So the trauma stuff was coming up more often than it would normally do. Finally, at the end of the summer, at the end of the renovations, and I got back on top of it, and I haven't had one since that point, because but I've still felt different times where they were starting to rise, but I've been able to regulate my nervous system enough to realize, no, it's okay, rethink, rechange, try to know the triggers, try to know, okay, I got to be careful here. If I feel something, don't over push myself physically. There's certain things like that. It's really wild. So I'm really gotten into a very long video here that was not anticipated. But I'm just going to keep moving with it. And if people watch it, they watch it. And so anyways, so fast forwarding, then there was some other deeper triggers last month, and the whole month of February. And it started with with a funeral in my family, just being around a lot of family. It triggered some old stuff, old wounds in my own life with that. And then there was something with, just in my own parenting style, my over anxiousness, trying to fix something with my son because my nervous system was up that month. And then there was another person that had triggered an old wound in a text message, not meaning to, but, and then they wanted to, dig deeper. And I was like, and it, I knew this person wasn't the person that I should be talking to about this kind of stuff. And so, but what happened was the need to fix all of this, and all of these emotions that were all coming up in my nervous system at the same time. Plus, I was working on the computer at that point to get a lot of pictures ready for the family member who passed away, which was my dad's twin brother. I was doing a lot of computer work, and all these different scenarios were taking place at the same time. And my nervous system went through the roof. It went through the roof. And I could tell at certain points that if I'm not careful, I can feel, and I knew when I had to say no more computer. I can't do any more picture projects or long, lengthy projects like that. I need to let them go because my nervous system is getting to that point. So I was able to, it took me a while to get things regulated, but it wasn't even so much all the computer thing as there was some really deep rooted stuff in there that I really wanted to try to work out, and I didn't have the right, the ability to do so. Anyways, it was quite the month and I'm getting back on top of it again, and I've done successfully. But it's bringing an awareness of all the deep rooted stuff that I have in my life that are old traumas in the body. And so what my mental health therapist explained, I started seeing someone just a few months ago. And while it's not necessarily the same person right now, because the waiting list to get the same person is about a year. But I've been getting the same person kind of regularly, which is nice. But she told me, she said, all that trauma is. It's a memory in the body. And what we need to do is separate our thoughts from the memory, to realize there are two different things. When the memory comes up in the physical body, you just remember it's a memory. The body is remembering it, okay? The brain remembers it, but it's not happening now. So when the thoughts go like, oh, what do I got to do? I got to process all this trauma. Where do I got to go into my childhood to figure out what happened that causes me to react such a way? And there is that balance. There is that balance, because one thing that I've noticed on this journey is that if I don't acknowledge the trauma when it comes up, if I try to suppress it, like if I'm about to have a seizure, and someone just says, "Oh, Michelle, you're okay," and tries to fix it, it makes it worse. It's like, whoa, you better get out of the room, because what comes up in my system, it's a lot more intense. What I need at that point, which shows a sign to the root of it, is that I just need someone to be there and let it process through, not try to fix it, and just love me. Just be there. And then usually what happens is it just comes up real quick. It processes, and then I go limp and my whole nervous system calms right down. I actually feel a lot better a lot of the time emotionally. It's just like it processed, and then it's like, but my body is limp. It's like there's no strength in my body, and it can incapacitate me for at least a couple hours thereafter, sometimes depending on how intense it is. For the most part, they're pretty, but sometimes if one is starting to come on, sometimes if I can get it early enough, all I really need is a hug and a big, heavy cry. And sometimes that will do the trick. So I'm finding different ways that, but if it gets up in a very strong way, it's not something that you can just say, oh, get up, calm it down, here, let me give you a hug. No. It's really hard to explain, but it's very wild. At the same time, it's like I'm learning all of this stuff, okay? I don't have to go to a college or university to learn how the body and the mind and the brain all work together. I'm learning firsthand in school what it's like, and I'm educating myself. I'm Googling stuff, I'm YouTubing it, and I'm practicing it. I'm implementing it in my life as much as I want to. No. Some days are definitely better than others. Some days I just can't seem to get on top of, maybe how I'm feeling, but I know that it's the small steps every day that we take that have the greatest impact, changing our mindset, change how we think. Which reminds me back to what I was saying about the trauma. Sometimes we need to focus to feel the trauma as it's coming up. Sometimes we need to feel it because the body's saying, you need to see me right now. I need some, you know what I mean? And then there's other times that we get caught up. So I didn't really finish that point. Sometimes we just need to feel it and let it process through. Cry, whatever it is that you need to do. And then other times, what we've got to watch is as we come from that, is that we've got to realize that if we stay in that, what do I got to fix? What do I got to fix? It actually entrenches the trauma even deeper. That's one of the things that I've learned. So as I've gotten into thinking, okay, what do I've got to figure out about my past? What is it that I got to process through? And when I get too much into that, it intensifies it. It will make it worse. So it's this fine line of trying to find a balance between learning to feel the trauma as it's coming up and acknowledging it and say, I acknowledge you. I see you. Yes. You held all this hurt and this pain inside from this experience or not being seen or heard or loved or, or feeling loved. Didn't mean I wasn't loved, but I was a very hyper kid growing up, and I had ADHD, and not knowing I didn't know what was going on, over hyper, had a hard time understanding basic simple things in every day to day life. I had a hard time fitting in with people my age. It was very difficult for me. And then luckily within the church, though, I found my niche, because the leaders all loved me because I was deeply spiritual. And so it gave me a sense of value. But on a friend level, or even in a family level, I was kind of like the weird one, the hyper one, the over detailed one, the eccentric one, the one that doesn't know how to shut up. So I internalized a lot of the stuff when I didn't know how to make friends, and I was always kind of like, the oddball out. I internalized a lot of that inside my system, and it's still there. Even to this day, I feel the need to just want to make everybody like me and all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, you know what? Value comes within. You can't heal me. Nobody can heal me. Only I can heal me. I'm learning that the long, hard way now. So even when I get caught up in that, I realize, you know what, Michelle, you're loved. And now I have beautiful, wonderful best friends. So I'm very thankful to have some beautiful friends in my life now. And a lot of that has changed as I changed. The last 3 years have been revolutionary to my life. Literally revolutionary to my life. I knew that nobody could love me enough to heal me. That's what I tried all my life. Up until I was 47, 46, 47. And then once I realized I had to be my own healer and change my mindset, how I thought of myself, how I worried about everyone else, how I stressed about everything in the past and what was going to happen in the future. And, all of this stuff. When am I going to be alone? My husband passed away, my kids move out, and I'm going to be alone. And, what am I going to... One of the things I started to do as I was going out on my walks, I'd start to just wave to people and smile. Full of chronic pain and anxiety. And I learned to just be that positive, that little positive that I could in the midst of all that. So I found little steps, and then, as I said, I would program, and I would just find different ways. And learning that my validation does not come from other people. It comes from changing my internal state and who I look at myself and who I am and who I know I am. That I am beautiful and that I am loved. And even if you were say, well, no one loves me. Well, you got at least friends now. Listen, we attract a lot of what we give. And one of the things that I learned is that in my need to protect myself and to control situations and have more of a victim mentality, you attract more of that around you. And so as I began to change my inner state, it began to change more the people around me. Like even in my own family, I had a lot of control issues. I had a lot of perfectionism, a lot of saying no to my kids a lot, always trying to save. There was just a lot of dynamics, and I had to change. And in my friendships, just as I began to change me, people began to change around me. And I started developing more meaningful friendships and better, and the relationships within my own family dynamic has changed because I started to change. I had to realize with all this chronic pain that nobody could heal me, only I could. And the road I went down of wanting everyone to love me so much that it would one day heal me, or that some people would just understand who I am. I understand me. So I found resources online to help me. And it's like, you know what? You can't change anybody but yourself. And if you change yourself, you're changing one person at a time, starting with you. And so that has been a big part of my journey, is learning to change me, changing me. I change first. And if I can change me, that's how we change the world. If everyone would stop looking at everyone else to change first, and we'd look at ourselves and say, I gotta change me. I gotta change my reaction to that person who didn't look at me the right way or say the right thing, or the person that insulted me. I've gotta change me. How do I react? Or how do I non-react? So do you hold it all in? You say nothing and let them beat you down? Do you overreact and like freak out? Do you get resentful and just kind of say something but hold it in? How do we react? And so we've got to find that way to change ourselves. I can't change that person. I can only change me. So maybe I need to apologize. Maybe I need to say something to clarify. Maybe I need to stand up for myself, not in a hateful way, but stand up for myself. It may come out hateful for the first time, you know what I mean? Because if you've stuffed it down for a long time, it might come out the wrong way, but at least you get it out right the first time. But, I mean, you get it out the first time. But then you might have to go back and maybe apologize for how you did it, but just say what I said was true, but maybe the way I overreacted was wrong. But it's based on how you made me feel, and I've got to work on that, and I apologize for maybe my overreacting. You got to figure all that out. Like, it's one step at a time, right? And it depends on the situation. Some situations, no matter how you try to fix it, it ain't going to fix, because they're not ready and they're not going to listen. And you know they're not going to listen. And it's just going to cause more heartache if you try to open it up and fix it. So sometimes you just got to let it go, right? And then if you let it go, it's like, well, okay, does it help me to hold in all of the stuff that's, no, it doesn't. So let it go. That's one of the hardest lessons. When I can't fix something and I have to let it go and I can't resolve it, that is so hard on me. So hard on me. But I'm learning to change my mindset about it, and it really helps. You know what? It's their opinion. It's where they're at. It's okay. Maybe sometime down the road they'll be okay with it. And you can talk it out. And if not, it's okay. Let it go. Why get all messed up in here and they're all messed up over there? Does that change anything? No, it makes it worse. So let it go. So those are the mentalities that I have to work on constantly, because I still am oversensitive. But I am so much further along on my journey than I've ever been. And I am learning that there is so much power in changing ourselves. And so part of my journey moving forward is to want to help other people in the midst of my own. And what happens sometimes is that people want me to be their healer at that point, and I can't, because I'm still working through my own stuff. But I never want to ever come to that point. You know, in the church, sometimes I look at pastors and I'm like, everyone expects you to be your healer. I don't know how you do it, you know? Like, that's what I think, you know? And it's about, really, leadership is teaching someone how to do it themselves, you know, not do it for them. Give them some tools. One of these days, I want to be in more of a place where I can really actively help people from a more healed state. I still have a lot of work to do in my nervous system, so I'm not there yet. But I still have one thing that I've learned that I want to do as part of my healing journey, and that is to help others along the way. It might not mean I have to, like, one-on-one help a lot, because I can't do that. Like, I mean, with more of my closer friends, that's a different situation. But I can't just, I'm not at that state or that place yet. But yet at times, yes, I will share a little bit with them. I don't mind giving tools and helpful things and say, okay, here's some stuff where you can research, you know, and give some a little bit of encouragement. But I can't be what some people may need me to be, because I'm still working through my own. But learning to give and to help others people heal in the middle of my own healing journey has actually been very helpful to my healing journey, because even as I'm sharing this with you, it makes me feel good that I've been able maybe to help someone with my own story. Some people may look at me a whole lot different. You go through what? What are psychogenic? What? You know what? One of the things that I want to be is authentic. And that is authentic about my struggles as well as my triumphs. And I don't have it all together. None of us ever have it all together. And if anyone ever makes you feel that way, just remember that they're still on a journey. And this is something that they've got to come to a realization for as well. But sometimes we have to go through a big, long journey to learn it. So anyways, in the end, a part of my passion of what I want to do and who I want to be is I want to help people heal. I want people to learn that the power is within you. It's within you to self-heal. Whether it's your nervous system, hey, if it's pancreatic cancer, my heart goes to you. Okay, I'm not talking about like major issues here, okay? But in the middle of that, you can change your mindset and help the process to be a bit better. Why add more misery to the horrible misery we're already in when we can't change certain things? But if we can change our mind, that is a huge part of the process. And I will recommend this book, The Gift, by Edith Eger, who was a Holocaust survivor. And her story is amazing. That the hell that she went through, pretty much, she said within the first year of being taken, pretty much her entire family and everyone she knew was all murdered. And she had her back broken numerous times from the abuse and everything that she went through. But she said, I found a way with the power of my mind to get through. She said, when I was forced to dance in front of this crazy, sadistic man, she said, my mom told me not to lose, that no one can tell me what to think. I am the controller of my mind, and I can change that. And so when she had to dance, she said, I pictured myself on a stage at a theater dancing for an audience. And she said, I danced with thinking that I was in that ballerina mode and before a beautiful audience. And she said, changing my mindset is the only thing that got me through that time. She said, I didn't look at my abusers as abusers. She said, I looked at them as the victims. Can you imagine doing that? She looked at them as the victims because they had so much anger and rage and pain in them. All they could do was inflict it on others. What would bring a person to that state? By changing our mindset, the worst hell that we can go through, if we can change our mindset, we can change our life. We can rewire our brain and our nervous system to a place of peace and safety and get things to calm down. Is it easy? No, but the steps are more simple than you realize. So don't lose hope. Remember that the power is within you. Remember that the power is within you. You can do this. You can do this. And my hope and my passion is to help others to see that within themselves. Now, if you are a spiritual person like I am, yes, I believe there's much more beyond this physical body. It's not the way religion has taught. It's much more beautiful. I see the source of life as within all of life. It's life experiencing itself through itself. Do I see say, oh, am I God? I'm not talking New Agey type of terminology. But in a sense, Yes, in the sense that we all stem from the source of life. Are we the sun? No, but we are the sun. It's like there's the sun, the source, and then the rays that come out from the sun are all the sun. So yes, we are part of that whole thing. We are God incarnate. All of us, all of life, the trees, nature, everything stems from that initial source of life. And I believe that it's a global consciousness within all of life, and that love and beauty, and that's what causes us to grow and heal. And as we grow higher in our vibration, or some people call it that, or higher in vibration, don't think of it, new age. Think of it as vibration, just in science. You change the energy, the vibration, okay? Negative polarities, positive polarities, you change that, you change your life. It's science. It's science and spirituality, all combined in one. It's one big, beautiful, absolute, incredible mystery. And the other thing that I like is that when we're talking about the source of life, I like this analogy about truth, is that the source of life held a mirror up over the earth. And the mirror was called truth. It was the truth. And the source of life drops it on the earth. And it shatters into millions of pieces. And all the people run to grab a piece. And when they find a piece, they run around claiming, I've got the truth. I've got the truth. But really, in reality, it's only when we all bring our bits and pieces of that truth together that we begin to see the bigger picture. And even then, we will never find all those pieces because we're not the source. There will always be things that we don't know or understand. Evolution of life does not stop. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Evolution doesn't just happen here on this planet, initiated by the source of life, mind you. I believe that it didn't just come from nothing. I believe that the source of life is within all things, so yes. I do believe that evolution may be of what have started life on this planet through the source of life, or how it continued I don't really know how to explain that. You can't explain what happened before the Big Bang, and that's where the source of life is, right? You can't explain everything. We're not going to understand. We might know what happened a bit more on our planet to a degree with evolution, but there's even more than the evolution that's taken place on there. There's deeper spiritual things that, we don't know all the answers to. And it's okay not to know all the answers to. So for me, the source of life is within all of life. And it's life, it's experiencing itself through us. And as we raise our vibration and come into a more enlightened understanding, okay? Again, you get these spiritual terms sometimes and it gets people you lose them. Oh, you're talking about people who are enlightened? Listen, stop overdoing it. Bring it to the natural if you need to. Bring it to the spiritual if that's what resonates to you. Whatever works, but it's all one and the same. When we're enlightened, we become aware, okay? We become aware of, the deeper picture going on. So whatever way you want to look at it, awareness or enlightenment, or raising your vibration, or changing your emotional state, or your mental state, whatever way or terms you want to use, it's all the same damn thing. Don't get caught up in that. That's what causes division. I got the right way, you got the wrong way. No, we've all got aspects of truth, and we bring them together. We can learn from one another. We can grow, and we can expand our consciousness together, becoming aware of who we truly are as human beings, and or, depending on what you believe, above and beyond that, much more. So with me and my journey, my heart, I want to help people heal. And what all that's going to be down the road, I don't know exactly. I know that I have a passion to help people with some physical touch. It'll be more women for me at this stage, usually my female friends and stuff like that. But giving head massages, learning to trying to tap into maybe where the emotional state is with soothing music, and just I've learned the power of physical touch when I would have a massage therapist and she was playing soothing music and she would have me covered in this nice warm blanket. And I remember thinking how soothing that was on my nervous system. Without any expertise or anything like that, that's one of the things that I want to tap into a bit. I have a heart to help us, life coach. To do it as a business, I don't know about all of that. Maybe one day down the road, years down the road, when I'm more healed and I can do things more, I may do stuff, like something like that more as a donation than a business. All I know is that I have a passion to help people, and I really want to help people to see that they can self-heal, not be their healer, but teach them that they can, if they are willing to do the work, and if they're willing to research and understand what is going on. That's the beginning. Understand, get knowledge, understand how you can, and then start implementing what you're learning, and realize that you are more powerful than you think, more beautiful than you believe, and more capable than you could ever imagine. And so with that, today, a whole 1 hour long video, which has been my longest video yet, I believe. I didn't anticipate going nearly this long, but this is who I am, where I've been, and the journey that I'm on. And I'm wishing you guys lots of love today, lots of peace, and I hope that you will find your way on your journey. After listening to this, my heart is that you will just dig deeper. Look for answers. Go online. There's all kinds of great resources on YouTube. It's absolutely wonderful. Don't get caught up with being online too much. Don't get me wrong. That is not a good thing. It's not good for the nervous system, whatever. But for research and finding help, there's so many great resources on there that can help you. Inspirational wise, educational wise, mental wise, spiritual. There's so many great things. Anyways, I'm going to leave that with you, and I hope you have a lovely day, and peace to you. Thank you for listening. If you've gotten this far in the video and listened to the whole thing, please let me know in the comments. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please like and share if you would like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And other than that, I'll just leave that with you, and take care.